Hi, I'm going to break down the first 5 minutes of the movie Scream, directed by Wes Craven in 1996. How did he pull you in with tension? How did he layer in details that are repeated later on in the story? This is all so that you can appreciate the art that is filmmaking. This sequence is all about Casey, played by Drew Barrymore. She gets a call from an unknown caller who says that it's an accidental call, but really he's just there trying to kill her, and he can see her, and he tells her this, and she freaks out. That's what this 5 minutes is about. Now, the first 5 minutes are very important in the movie. They need to tell you, and that's what this sequence does. It tells you what this story is about. We immediately know it's a slasher movie. The audience doesn't tease on second guessing what it's going to happen or what this movie's about. They know it's a slasher movie. And also, it's the inciting incident. And what the inciting incident is, it is the moment or the event that kicks off the rest of the story. And this is the first murder that the killer does as he starts to target Sydney later on in the film. So the movie starts up on a close-up of a phone. The killer calls in on the phone throughout the movie, and so that's what this establishes also. But it starts up on a close-up of the phone, and then we tilt up and pan up to see Casey as she stands answering the phone. And then she's talking to the person, and as she walks away after hanging up the phone, she walks away, and then the phone rings, and we're following her at that point, and we push in a little bit more. This is really important. A little bit more closer to her. So it's kind of a push. It is a push in. And that little moment, that little push in, that is telling you, it is basically what the director is talking directly to the audience. He's saying, this moment is important. This little push in is telling you this moment is important. It's a realization for Casey. It's a realization for the audience that why is this caller calling again? It's a little bit unusual. Now, later on, this same push in will be repeated, and it will get more intense as it goes. Right now, there's no music for added effect. And so then we see her look. Her look motivates this next cut. We need this look to motivate the cut. And this shot mirrors very similar to the first shot of the movie, where we were already looking at the phone, except now things are different. The stakes have been upped. There's more tension. It's unusual. We've established that with the camera push-in. And so we're canted. And what canted means is we're not level. It's a little bit off to the side. And so we're looking at this, at the thing, and she picks up the phone again, and again we do the same tilt up and pan back to Casey as she's talking. But it's not the same angle. We're not looking at Casey. The background's different for where Casey is, and that's on purpose. There's a window behind her, and basically what this is doing is it's creating this like vulnerability where something behind her could come and get her, and they're just establishing it, and they're doing it very subtly at first. What he's doing, Wes Craven is doing, is he's just giving you half the door. So maybe on the other half of the door, there's something through the window that she's not facing the window, so we know that she's vulnerable right there. But we can't see the other half of that door. So maybe there's something on the other half of the door, and we slowly start to rotate a little bit around so we can see the full door. And then what happens in this moment, it's great. It's so important. Figuring out your pacing and how things evolve in the moment really adds an extra dimension to your storytelling. And so what happens here is she leaves frame, and we linger for a moment on this big open space of windows, and that is what motivates the cut to go outside. And we, the audience, we know we're watching a slasher movie because we've seen the trailer, and there's a swing in the backyard, and so we know someone's out there, and we're thinking that someone's out there now. And so we needed that little linger right there at that moment to motivate the cut to the outside. You have to think about motivating the cut. Now we cut back inside to the oven where the popcorn slides into frame. And again, it's just the same MO as what we did before with the phone. We're starting in on a close-up that we were introducing to the scene, and it goes with the theme of talking about movies and horror movies and people in the world being interested in horror movies and movies altogether. And so that's what It's what's great about this small detail that plays throughout the movie, with Jamie Kennedy saying some funny things later. And so what happens here is there's this long take where the camera stays on her as she goes around the island, and then she gets to the knife block, and the camera is situated, the knife block is situated so that it's very prominent in frame, and we're seeing it and we're noticing it, and that's really important for a couple reasons. It gives the audience a moment to think, get the knife already, because they know something's gonna happen. Get the knife, and so there's this moment where they might think that she should be armed already. But there's also, you need to establish weapons that your main character especially, is going to be using. You can't have your characters having coincidences. So you need to establish them ahead of time before they need them. Otherwise it feels cheap. Now with villains, that's not the case. They can be given things that aid them easier than your protagonist, and she's the protagonist of the scene, the one we're rooting for. And so that's what this knife block is about. Now this shot continues, and now she goes into the house. She's passing about all these corners that are potential places where the killer can come and grab her. And so it's a little bit nerve-wracking and tension building just by us of this location, this great house. And as she walks, we see this location. There's more windows, again, more vulnerabilities. This is great location, great feeling. And she does this. I wanted to point out this great moment that Drew Barrymore has.
You got a boyfriend?
Why? You want to ask me out on a date?
Maybe.
She stops at the edge of the thing and twirls. And it's a little bit of flirtatiousness with the guy on the phone. So she's flirting with the guy on the phone. And also what it does is it gives us a moment to see her, because she's been walking forward and we can't see her face. And that's been okay, because we've been preoccupied with the whole idea that someone could be jumping out of a corner. But now that we're moving back to her character and the fact that she's flirting and paying attention that she's flirting, which is important. In a horror movie, there are values and morals in a film, and if you make a mistake or you have a sin, then those are the people that get punished and often are killed. And her punishment, she gets killed later. Obviously, you don't deserve to get killed, but for flirting with somebody else when you have a boyfriend. But that's what happens here, is she's flirting with somebody else while she has a boyfriend, and so that's her sin. And then we have another great camera move. So this whole camera movement has been about following the character to see what she's seeing, to stay with her. So it's not been motivated by the director telling the audience something, just showing them the world essentially. And so the director really has a voice in this camera movement.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
What did you say?
And we push in on her as she realizes she's being watched. And that freaks her out. And what happens is the camera pushes in, stops, and then the tension has to go somewhere. The tension's built from what's been said, and also the camera move has aided in that. And so when it goes, is she says something. And now we cut back to the popcorn, which is now really big. The popcorn kernels have popped, and it's gonna explode. The tension in that is the same tension that is happening in the movie. And so it kind of is a parallel. It's great. It's great production design and great thinking for the director to have that mirror the tension of the scene. And also the whole thing, we've cut to, again, the second cut to the close-up on the popcorn is canted, just like the canted angle on the second cut to the canted angle on the telephone. And basically, I think the purpose of this, I've heard someone say that don't use the same location more than once in a film. I don't think I agree with that at all, but like the idea is don't show them the same things. And so this isn't the same popcorn. It's different in so many different ways because it's big and it's canted now. And the same thing with the phone. This isn't the same phone, it's now canted. So it's different in some way. The tensions have been elevated. Okay, so now she's at the door, she's locked the door, and the doorbell rings, and she's she's added distance from herself in the door because that's where the killer is. And we start to push in on her, and it kind of starts to feel like we are the killer. Now, we know we're not the killer. So it's not that we're actually seeing the killer. It's a little bit handheld. We're kind of creeping closer to her. She doesn't see him or anything, so it's definitely not the killer. But basically what it is like the killer is approaching her. He's getting closer and closer to her. Not necessarily physically, but tensionally. The tension is saying he's getting closer and closer to her. Something's gonna happen. Now, as we push in, she backs up a little bit, and she backs up more and more. And what's behind her, we've noticed it for a while now. It's the windows. She's vulnerable. Her back's facing it, she's not aware of it. And so we know where this is going, and the tension builds as she's unaware. One of the ways to build tension is to have the audience know something that the character doesn't. And she doesn't know that something's behind her, that the killer's probably behind her, and that this window and this vulnerability is there. These camera moves, as we push in on her, the director is a push in, they're getting closer and closer together. And there's added things to them like music, and so they're getting tenser. So the things are getting tenser, and they're getting closer together. So that's rising tension, and that's just how you do rising tension right there. The push-in, we've talked about it before in different videos. How the push-in works is the tension is as the camera moves in closer. And then there's a pause as she realizes something. And then she says the line.
His name wouldn't be Steve, would it?
How do you know his name?
Well, that's the end of our video, guys. I want to say thanks for watching. We break down how films make you feel things, how directors work. It's really fun. We have a whole bunch of videos on camera moves. We're going to be talking about how directing techniques and how they work as well. I want you to like, subscribe, smash notifications, write something in the comments. I'll chat back with you. We can talk about something else, some other kind of movie. I love chatting. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great one.